Here's the thing. I'm pumped up for the NBA draft.
Oh, yeah.
Now, 2 years ago, we saw Jalen get drafted by Charlotte. Last year, Malachi Flynn goes in the first round. And this year, there's a chance that we see another Aztec or two hear their name called tomorrow night. Brian Dutcher, head coach of the Aztecs, back with us at Xtra 1360. Coach, it is always great to catch up. We're talking about the fact that we're just 24 hours away or so from the NBA draft. And, I'm curious, what have NBA teams told you and your staff regarding Matt and Jordan and their interest potentially tomorrow night in your former players, or just moving forward with your former players?
It's interesting. A lot of the teams call on both kids. They usually talk to the assistants. They don't talk to me. Maybe they think I'll talk too glowingly of them, and the assistants might give them a more realistic evaluation, but they don't call me. But I know Jordan worked out for 15 teams.
Wow.
That's a lot of workouts. And Matt worked out for 9. And so I'm sure they've got positives and negatives about both of them, and we'll see what happens on draft day.
I was saying this to John earlier in the week that if they're going to be taken toward the end of the second round, I would actually rather, as cool as it would be to see an Aztecs name be called, I would rather them not be drafted, because you put yourself in a priority seat. If enough teams really want you and the phone starts ringing, you can even leverage your position a little bit as a priority free agent and sign to the team with the best situation. Is that advice that you might share with some of your players who are getting ready for the draft, that, hey, look, even if you don't get drafted, sometimes that's for the better of your career?
Sometimes it used to be that way. If you weren't a first-round pick and you were a second-round pick, your chances of making it were very slim. Now they sign these guys to the two-way deals where they spend half the season in the G League and half with the big club. And so I think sometimes the second round is not a bad thing. It's just getting picked up by the right team that has need, that will give you an opportunity. So I'm interested to see what happens. I think both of our guys will have a chance to get drafted. If they're not, I think we'll see them both in the NBA Summer League trying to make a roster. But what great players for the Aztecs for the last 4 years, and moving on to the next chapter of their careers, the professional side of it.
Yeah, I know one thing. Both of those guys are winners, and they can contribute, whether it's in the NBA or playing professionally overseas or elsewhere. Brian Dutcher joining us right now on Xtra 1360. Coach, how important is the success of your former players to the success that you have on the recruiting trail or in the transfer portal, not just with the guys that get to the NBA, but you've got a number of guys that are playing professionally, having tons of success elsewhere that have come out of your program?
Oh, it's incredibly important. I mean, to sit there and go into a living room with a young man and his family that have professional aspirations, and you tell them, hey, 3 Aztecs started in the NBA this year with Jalen McDaniels, Malachi Flynn, and obviously Kawhi Leonard. All were on the starting lineups on an NBA roster at some point during the year. Obviously not all year for Malachi and Jalen, but during parts of the year they were in the starting lineup. And then you move on to tell them the success guys like J.J. O'Brien had in France, Jamal Franklin in China, Malcolm Thomas plays overseas in Spain, and Trey Kell signed a new deal just recently in Italy, and the list goes on and on. Richie Williams still playing in Germany, Mohamed Abakar still playing. We have Winston Shepard. You can just go down that list. We have guys that are continuing to play professional careers overseas, and I'm so happy for them to have that opportunity to do so.
How about that? We got in the Wayback Machine for some of those names. That's incredible, the durability some of your former players have shown extending their professional careers overseas and also in the NBA. Hey, what has it been like? You mentioned living room chats with recruits. What has that been like back in living rooms? Or what are the restrictions put in place for recruiting? Is still some of it need to be done virtually? Where are you guys at with all that?
We're in the virtual living room. I mean, we're still Zooming. And we haven't been out on the road to see the kids face-to-face with meetings. But we did get to go out this year for the first time in almost, a year and a half, it seems like, to see them in person. We went out last 2 weekends in June. We watched basketball. And then the last 3 weeks here of July, we were out every weekend evaluating players. And so the process is moving again. We have an official visit coming in to town on Thursday, tomorrow, and we're starting to bring kids back on campus for official visits, which we didn't do for a year. And so the machine is heating back up. We're on the recruiting trail, and we're going to try to secure some good high school players in the early signing period, and then obviously fill spots in the roster with the transfer market at the end of the season. So that's the new normal.
You know, Coach, you guys have done such a good job with non-conference scheduling in your recent history. I'm thinking back for the last 20 years since you and Coach Fisher have been on the Mesa. How important is non-conference scheduling, and how is your non-conference schedule coming along for the upcoming year?
Obviously, the Power Fives, they're playing more games against each other. They don't want to play non-Power Five schools. If you can find someone that'll do it for you, you have to take it, obviously. We've got Arizona State coming back to us this year on a return game. We're going to BYU, which is a series the fans love. We love playing because both teams are usually quad one games. We're playing up in the Wooden Legacy. We have Georgetown in the first game, and hopefully if we play well enough, we'll have a shot at USC in the second game. We continue to add pieces to our schedule, but, you know, sometimes people look at the schedule and they say, well, geez, I wish it was a stronger schedule. Well, you have to realize we're asking everybody to play us. And if they choose not to play us, we can't do anything about it. We can't force them to play. So we've got another Pac-12 team in the future that wants to start at home and home next year that we will lock in. And we have an easier time scheduling than the rest of our conference because we're San Diego State, because of the success we've had, and because of the city of San Diego. And so we continue to get good games. We try to put good product in front of the home crowd, games they're excited about, and we will continue to do that.
We got a question off of Twitter I want to put your way because I think it's a relatively good one. And this happens every time you're on the show. We get bombarded with texts and Twitter questions for the coach. So how about this? Are we going to see any 4-guard sets in the lineup this season?
No question. I mean, you have to be versatile. And I told the guys in practice the other day, the more positions you can play, the more valuable you will be to the program. And so we'll have lineups where we're big. We'll have lineups where we're small. And that's just the nature of the game right now. You know, play small ball or play big and powerful. And we'll be able to, with the talent we have on the roster, the depth we have, we'll be able to play both ways over the course of the season.
How would you compare the roster that you have to begin this 2021-22 season to the team that you had on the court a year ago?
Well, you always start a team, you want to be solid up the middle. That's point guard and center. We have our starting point guard back, Trey Pulliam. We have our backup point guard back in Lamont Butler. We have our starting center in Nathan Mensah. We have our backup center in Joshua Tomajic. Then we're piecing around that. But that's a good place to start. Keshad Johnson, who's been in the program going in his third year, I'm thinking really good things for Keshad. Obviously, we miss a lot of scoring out of Matt and Jordan, but when you add a Matt Bradley, 18-point-a-game scorer in the Pac-12, you're thinking that will slide into one of those roles, a scoring guard. And we've signed very talented players. We have good players that have developed in the program that are now going to get the opportunity to show what they can do. And so I'm encouraged by the roster. I know we're going to be good, but like I tell the team, how good and how soon, I don't know. But we will be good again this year.
I think that there are those that cover the sport for a living that had said that Matt Bradley might have been one of the best available players in the entire nation in the transfer portal. You just mentioned him, what he did at Cal in Berkeley. What made the relationship between Bradley and San Diego State so appealing for both you and him?
Just the success that inland players have had in our program. Kawhi Leonard, Jamal Franklin, Jeremy Hemsley, Matt Mitchell. Just go down the line of the players from the Inland Empire that have come here and played significant roles and gone on to great things after being here. And so Matt saw that success. He saw how we win, the crowds we play in front of, and it was easy to get him here. Now, when I say it was easy to get him here, we had competition. He heard from every school in the country, from Kentucky to Kansas to Arizona, you could name it. He could have gone to any of them, and he chose to be here with us. And we are grateful to have him and excited to get him out on that floor.
How much has the new name, image, and likeness rules changed the conversations you've been having with recruits or potential transfers? I know there are certain restrictions in place, but all that's kind of unclear to me, and I don't know how clear it is to anybody at this point. This feels like the Wild West, but how much of that are you able to talk about with your potential transfer players or recruits, and does it come up in conversation at all?
You know, it really hasn't come up a whole lot in recruiting. I think players know that we play in the 8th largest city in the country, that whatever any other program can do, we can do. And so if they have a brand that companies think is important that they can work into their business model, they'll have their opportunities here at San Diego State. John David Wicker's done a good job keeping us abreast of all the changes in NIL, what can be done, what can't be done. And like everything, it's a new thing, and so we're all kind of working through the process of it right now.
Brian Dutcher joining us right now on Extra 1360. Coach, as you know, with NIL, with the news out of the Big 12, with OU and Texas, it's a very unique time in college athletics. A lot of moving parts. It feels like things are moving at lightning speed. But what potential impact could conference realignment have on your men's basketball program in the future, if any?
Well, I'm thinking of moving directly to the NBA. We're going to bypass another conference and move Aztec basketball. We need another pro team here, so why not make it the San Diego State Aztecs? So we're going to – I don't know. You know, it's a conversation. You know, it goes quiet for a while,
yep,
and then it jumps up again, and everyone's talking about realignment. I know John David Wicker, President De La Torre, will have us in conversation to find the best place for San Diego State athletics, whether it's in the Mountain West or opportunities in other conferences. But I think anybody that says they know what's going on would be mistaken. It's a dynamic situation for all conferences, not just ours, but the Big Ten, the ACC. Everybody's in conversations right now, and I know I can't control it, so we'll see where it ends up years down the road. But we will be in that conversation.
Well, you heard it here first, folks.
San Diego State to the NBA.
The Aztecs are joining a new league. Hey, Coach, as always, we appreciate the time. Thanks for taking a little bit of that time out of your busy schedule.
Thanks for having me, guys.